He is an orphan whose body is covered in scars left by his father. When he was still a child, Zack was almost burned alive because of his stepfather. After that incident, he was wrapped up and abandoned at an illegal orphanage where he was only given leftover food. For years, Zack was treated like a tool. If he ever dared to disobey his foster parents, he would be punished. One day, while taking out the trash, Zack discovered a skull buried beside the house. It seemed that it belonged to another child from the orphanage who had also become a victim of his foster parents' murders. Slowly, Zack's humanity began to fade away. When he watched a movie about a killer who hunted couples in the forest, his sanity finally collapsed completely. He decided to imitate everything he saw in the movie and went to the kitchen to grab a knife. Zack stood over his father before driving the knife into his body. The years of suffering he had endured pushed him to kill the two useless parents who had abused him for so long. At last, Zack felt freedom, and he couldn't stop smiling. After leaving that place, Zack wandered aimlessly until a car suddenly splashed water on him. When the woman stepped out to apologize, she realized that Zack was holding a knife. Terrified, she slowly stepped back. The scene from the killer movie flashed through Zack's mind again. For the second time, Zack imitated the murder he had seen in the film. That night, Zack slept inside the woman's car. While the owner of the car lay lifeless on the ground, the next morning, Zack was approached by an old man. The old man was blind and simply asked where Zack's parents were. Zack wanted to kill the old man, but his stomach suddenly growled. The old man invited Zack into his home and gave him food. He didn't know why Zack was lost in the middle of the forest, but he allowed the boy to stay until he could find his parents for the first time in his life. Someone treated Zack with kindness. Zack asked the old man why he was being so nice to him. The old man simply said that he felt lonely and had no one to talk to since living with the old man. Zack finally began to feel the warmth of a family one day. However, the old man left the house without explaining why. Time passed and night began to fall, but he still had not returned. In reality, the old man had left a note on the table saying he had gone to the bakery. But Zack couldn't read, so he had no idea where the old man had gone. Worried, he went out to search for him while carrying a knife. Soon, Zack found a group of people and police officers covering a murder victim. The victim was the old man. Not far away, there was a couple who had killed him to steal his thick wallet. Zack stared at their faces. The man tried to push Zack away, disgusted by the boy's ugly face, but Zack suddenly knocked the man to the ground and killed him right in front of his partner. Soon after, the woman met the same fate. That night, Zack killed both of them while remembering the old man who had once shown him kindness. By then, Zack had become a monster who laughed at the deaths of others. He now had only one purpose in life: to destroy people's happiness and make them suffer in despair. Several years later, we are introduced to a girl undergoing a medical examination in a hospital. Somehow, she ends up inside a mysterious building. As Rachel explores the room, she notices strange writings on the wall asking questions about who she really is. Is she an angel, or merely a sacrifice? Rachel doesn't understand what it means. When she enters an elevator to leave the place, a voice suddenly echoes through the building, telling the players to prepare themselves because a girl has arrived to become the next sacrifice. Rachel arrives at the lowest floor, a place called the play area. While searching for an exit, she suddenly hears the sound of shattering glass. Realizing that someone is chasing her, Rachel begins to run. The hallway is filled with blood stains, and she soon finds an injured bird lying on the floor. As Rachel tries to help it, a wooden barrier suddenly shatters, instantly crushing the bird to death. Finished with a laugh on his face, he then gave Rachel 3 seconds to run and save herself. As Zack began counting, Rachel tried to escape. The desperate look on her face only made Zack even more eager to kill her. Rachel ended up in an abandoned room. The coffin inside looked like a good place to hide, but Zack already knew where she was. He stabbed his weapon into each corner of the coffin, nearly hitting Rachel's body. Since he didn't hear any sound, Zack decided to search for Rachel somewhere else. Rachel used that moment to escape. However, When she returned to look at the injured bird from earlier, her gaze slowly changed into an empty stare. She took out a needle and thread and began sewing the bird. Trying to restore it to the condition it should have been in, Rachel eventually arrived in front of the elevator door, but Zack was already waiting behind her. This time, Zack had no intention of giving her another chance to run. He charged forward and swung his scythe, but Rachel barely managed to dodge. In panic, she ran toward the elevator and frantically pressed the button. Fortunately for Rachel, the elevator doors closed just before Zack could kill her. Moments later, Rachel arrived on the 5th floor, which looked like a hospital that felt strangely familiar to her. At the same time, footsteps echoed from the darkness. Just as she suspected, it was Dany, a doctor who had once treated her before. Dany tried to calm Rachel down, saying that the killer chasing her would not be able to enter this floor because there were rules preventing it. Meanwhile, Zack noticed that Rachel had sewn the dead bird back together. This only made him more interested in her. Dany had been waiting for Rachel's arrival. Rachel's blue eyes reminded him of his late mother's eyes. He desperately wanted those eyes and was willing to do anything to obtain them. However, Dany claimed that he had forgotten something and asked Rachel to look for it in the next room. When Rachel entered the room, she was greeted by a horrifying sight. There were glass jars filled with eyeballs that Dany had taken from his patients. Rachel realized she needed to escape immediately when she spotted a metal bar. She used it to force the door open. But the moment the door opened, Dany suddenly appeared behind her. This floor belonged to Dany, and he would never allow those beautiful eyes to escape from him. He dragged Rachel into the operating room so he could obtain what he desired. Rachel begged him to let her go and send her back to her parents. Dany replied that he would help Rachel reunite with her family because they were already waiting for her in hell. They're waiting for you in hell. At that moment, Rachel's memories about her family suddenly resurfaced. Her eyes changed into a calm, moonlight gaze. Dany was delighted when Rachel fell into despair because it allowed him to see the beauty of her eyes, but the moment didn't last long. Zack suddenly appeared and attacked Dany from behind. Zack walked past Dany's lifeless body and placed his scythe beside Rachel, ready to give her turn next. However, Rachel didn't react at all. "Aren't you afraid of dying?" At that moment, a voice echoed through the building, announcing that Zack had entered another residence floor. Because he had broken the rules, he would now be treated as a sacrifice. Zack needed to leave immediately. So he walked to the elevator door and tried to force it open with his foot. After her memories finally returned, Rachel realized that she should have died along with her family. She approached Zack and begged him to kill her. "Please, kill me." Those were the most disgusting words Zack had ever heard. But after thinking about it for a moment, Zack realized that Rachel might actually be useful to him. Because of that, Zack proposed that they work together. Rachel would help escape from this place, and once they get out, Zack will kill Rachel just as she wishes. A short while later, they arrive on the 4th floor, which is almost entirely filled with graves. Among them is a tombstone engraved with the name Rachel Gardner. The owner of this floor has also prepared a grave for Zack, although it looks more like a pile of stones. While looking at the tombstone in front of her, Rachel notices a small gap behind it. She decides to check the place because only she can squeeze through it. Meanwhile, Zack is told to search for the exit, which might be connected to one of the graves there. Zack complains that he is stupid. "Exactly," Rachel replies. That is precisely why she gave him the task, because she believes that luck always favors fools. Before leaving, Rachel asks Zack not to destroy her grave. The narrow gap leads Rachel into a room where she finds a letter addressed to her. The writer confesses that he has been in love with Rachel and has been waiting for this moment for a long time. He also says that he has prepared something special for her, a place where Rachel can rest forever. Meanwhile, Zack keeps staring at his own grave. He refuses to dirty his scythe for something as worthless as that pile of stones. Instead, he uses another tool and proudly smashes his grave, enjoying himself. Zack decides to destroy all the graves in the area. He jumps from place to place, smashing everything and causing a loud commotion that Rachel can hear. One of the stones he destroys falls onto a hidden switch, which opens a door in another room. Inside that room are records about every person who has been brought into the mysterious building, including Rachel. On the other side, Zack keeps destroying the graves until only Rachel's tombstone remains. If he destroys it, he might get into serious trouble. So he throws away the shovel. When Rachel returns, she shows Zack a record about a man named Isaac Foster. Rachel begins reading the file, describing how Isaac Foster was left at an illegal orphanage and the tragic event where he killed his foster parents. Zack admits that he is Isaac Foster and asks Rachel how she feels after. Reading the file, Rachel calmly says that she is not afraid of him. Her answer reminds Zack of a woman who once said the same thing. She claimed she was not afraid of him and even called Zack a real man, but the moment she got the chance, she ran away, proving that everything she said had been a lie. Since then, Zack has hated people who lie and will kill them without hesitation. After hearing Zack's story, Rachel says she wants to run away too. Just like that woman did, Zack realizes that he is dealing with a crazy person. So he destroys Rachel's tombstone and reminds her that she will die if they manage to escape this place. After that, Zack walks away, leaving Rachel disappointed because she didn't get to die. To open the exit door, Rachel tells Zack to go into the water, thinking that the trigger might be hidden there. It seems like Rachel still holds a grudge against Zack for destroying her tombstone. However, Zack has no choice but to step into the filthy water. While walking, Zack suddenly wonders if Rachel truly wants to die. Why doesn't she just kill herself? Rachel explains that according to her belief, God forbids people from committing suicide, and doing so would be a grave sin. As Zack continues walking, he accidentally steps on a switch that opens a door somewhere else. When Rachel investigates that place, she finds another letter along with a rose flower. At that exact moment, the lights suddenly go out. Then the owner of the 4th floor appears, Eddie, the gravedigger. Unlike Zack, Eddie knows much more about Rachel, including her family and her desire to die. And because of that, Eddie wants to be the one who grants her wish. Because to him, Zack was far too stupid to handle this job. Eddie kept cornering Rachel, trying to persuade her to accept him. Meanwhile, in the other room, Zack could only listen to their conversation. Eddie then gave Rachel a final choice: be killed by Zack or die at his hands. Just as Rachel was about to choose Eddie, Zack suddenly stopped her. He even swore to God that he would be the one to kill Rachel and that he would not let anyone else take her away from him. We're the same, yeah. Eddie could not accept Rachel's decision to choose Zack over him. Even though he had originally planned to kill Rachel without causing her pain, that plan no longer applied. Now he would kill her by any means necessary, even if he had to fight Zack first. By pressing a button, Eddie immediately turned off the lights. He had been used to digging graves in the darkness for a long time, so this situation greatly benefited him since he could still see clearly. Zack seemed to be toyed with by Eddie. He kept swinging his weapon in every direction because he had no idea where Eddie was. One of his attacks even nearly struck Rachel. Rather than just watching, Zack told her to find a way to turn the lights back on. Meanwhile, Zack closed his eyes, relying on instinct to sense Eddie's movements. Eddie realized that Zack was not his match in this darkness. So instead, he went to look for Rachel, who was hiding behind her own grave. After subduing her, Eddie threw Rachel into the coffin. The sight looked incredibly beautiful to him. He would make sure Rachel died so she could remain there forever. But before that could happen, Rachel managed to blind him. She pushed Eddie away and grabbed the remote that had fallen, using it to turn the lights back on. Eddie could not understand why Rachel was distancing herself from him. After all, he was the only one who truly understood her and had even prepared her final resting place. His question was answered by Zack, who bluntly said that he had been rejected. A fierce attack followed, and red blood splattered out, staining the flowers around them. With the last of his strength, Eddie said that he had originally intended to place Rachel inside the coffin. After that, Zack pushed the gravestone in front of him, burying Eddie in the very grave he had prepared for himself. After Eddie's death, Rachel finally realized that this place looked very beautiful. but she could not stay there forever. She then opened a hidden elevator door beside her grave. Soon after, they arrived on the 3rd floor, and trouble immediately awaited them. Their path was blocked by iron bars, and the key was nowhere to be found. Rachel actually had a tool that could open it, but when she was about to take it out, the impatient Zack told her to cover her ears because he would force the door open. However, instead of the door opening, they were suddenly showered with bullets from the resident of that floor. Catherine had been watching them from behind a screen and was impressed that they were still alive. She could hardly wait to punish Zack, so she opened the door to let them continue because many punishments were still waiting for them. At that moment, they were told to take photos like real criminals. Rachel tried to give directions and do her best, but Zack was the complete opposite. He just randomly pressed the button,